Well, howdy, Schlockaholics. Welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be embarking on our 19th episode, and that's going to be covering the Mark Polonia / Jeff Kirkendall film, Return to Splatter Farm. This is a long time coming on this one. We did our coverage of the original Splatter Farm not that long ago, and it just made sense to hit the sequel, so here we are. I think we just kind of agreed to throw this in here, right? Or was it anybody's specific choice? I don't remember at this point.
I think I picked Splatter Farm, so you went ahead and picked Return, or the other way around, maybe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we were supposed to
waiting on
do Night of the Axe. Yeah, and it, there was some delays with that, so we threw this in here. And it's just as well, we might as well bang it out if that way we're done with it. Yeah, we got both the Splatter Farms on the books, and I for sure am glad that we decided to do this. I watched this movie a couple of times and thoroughly enjoyed it. But since Splatter Farm was your pick and that led us to where we are now, Cody, I guess we'll start with your first impressions of Splatter Farm, or Return to Splatter Farm rather, after we run this this handy dandy trailer right here. So enjoy, and we'll see you back here with our first impressions.
Excuse me. Did I hear you say you're heading out to that old farmhouse down the road a piece?
Why do they call the place Splatter Farm?
The Death Farm.
The Death Farm.
There's some people murdered there 30 years ago.
Corpses and body parts everywhere, and they never found the killer.
What is all that stuff you keep shoving in there anyways? Ropes, knives, camping gear, a moose gun?
That is what I call a MILF. Ugh.
Bro, the very definition.
Langley, I said I need backup out at the old farmhouse. Copy? Hey, stop!
Return to Splatter Farm. 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 Return to Splatter.
Damn, that ska punk in that trailer is very reminiscent of a certain someone that is regular feature on the show. What are you guys up to, Wild Eye? That's like, I don't know if you're allowed to do that in my book. I think the ska punk has pretty much been, trademarked by a certain someone. Other than that, good trailer, though. It pretty much adequately represents what goes on in the film, which is a bunch of slicing and dicing and familiar faces that you know from other, modern-day Polonia fare. Specifically, I recognized them all from the Apes movies, but that was like the last big chunk of Polonia stuff that I watched before watching this. So, Cody, what was your first impression of Return to Splatter Farm when you saw it? When did you see it? All that good stuff. Also, hello, Michael. Your package should be in the mail. So,
I was excited about it. A lot of people regard Splatter Farm as being their favorite Polonia movie, and a lot of people kind of fell off on watching Polonia stuff because of, kind of the transition after his brother died and the way he started making movies now and doing stuff with his son. But I was excited about it. It's excited, nervous. You wait that long for a sequel, it usually isn't met with really good results. This was 33 years later, I think, but I was still excited about it. Putting Polonia and Kirkendall together was, it was almost a can't miss.
Yeah, match made in schlock heaven right there. I don't know. What about you, Brandon? What were your first impressions and general history with it?
Well, Kyle was the one who had me. He kept asking about. It's like, have you seen Return to Splatter Farm yet? Have you seen Return to Splatter Farm? I was like, I haven't even seen Splatter Farm. I don't even know what that is. So ended up buying Splatter Farm, and it turned out that Return to Splatter Farm hadn't even been out yet.
Oh,
So of
well,
course,
there you go,
of
Kyle.
course, I
That's why
couldn't
you
have
hadn't seen it.
because of course Kyle has two brief appearances in it. One is obvious, and one is not so obvious.
Yeah, I missed the not so obvious one for sure.
Yeah, it's the second one. He actually is one of the dead people that comes back to life at the end.
Right on. Yeah, I was definitely. I watched this a couple of times, and it was a little while back. I did get most of a rewatch in last night, actually, when I got back from the water. Still good. Yeah. I didn't rush out to see this when it came out or anything, because, like Cody said, a lot of these late sequels are pretty ass. And they kind of accomplished here with Return to Splatter Farm what a lot of the major studio nostalgic sequels fail at, which is making it like new and updated in a fun way that complements the original film, but also stays true to the original film, without, also retreading the territory to the point where it feels like they're just kicking a dead horse, you get like 5 minutes of recap where they do an awesome recreation of the original movie that is fucking hilarious. And other than that, they just kind of let it exist as its own sort of, Friday the 13th Camp Blood style thing where they've gone back to this farm, or they've gone to this farm, and it's known for this set of murders that had happened 30 years ago or whatever, 40 years ago. And I thought that was pretty cool going into it initially. I thought that there was going to be a lot of rehashed, recycled footage. I thought that it was going to be pretty fucking lazy. Nothing against Polonia or anything, but as Cody mentioned, there's a lot of people that have fallen off of his stuff because not all of it is as good as the shit that they used to do in the 90s. The vast majority of it isn't. And I don't know that we should expect it to be. But I think that they definitely showed the time and care that was necessary for a sequel to such an iconic movie as Splatter Farm with this one. I mean, it looks slick. It's got a great soundtrack. The gore is awesome. There's not a ton of that shitty clip art gore that Polonia uses in a lot of his stuff now. All the splatter seemed practical for the most part. Makeup was real good. And then, it being populated with characters that you're familiar with from the modern Polonia stuff makes it feel a little bit like a, meeting of the two generations in a very legit way, because now all these people have a part of the classic Polonia legacy as well after having been in this movie. So I thought that was pretty fucking cool.
From what I've heard, this was something that that Mark Polonia really, really wanted to nail. That was very important. That it really kind of reflected his time with his brother, and he wanted to make it special. So, and it shows. And I also want to say it feels really good to watch a non-shark Polonia movie.
I bet.
I swear that's the only films he creates these days, the sharks. But it shows that yes, he can do something outside of that, and he can still nail it like nobody's business.
Oh yeah, I think that a lot of his newer movies he definitely does for a paycheck to get enough money to make the next movie to keep the business that he's built a bit rolling. But this was clearly a labor of love. I think that shows through the whole thing. And even in people's performances in this are like solidly 2 or 3 stars better than their performances in other Polonia movies. I mean, the cast was taking it pretty seriously, it seemed like, too, in SOV standards, this is like getting hired to make a sequel to The Burning or something, like this iconic cult film that never got a sequel somehow. I'm honestly surprised the Polonias didn't do a sequel to this back in the day, because even in the 90s, the movie was pretty iconic and well loved and everything like that. So even by the end of the decade there, I'm surprised they didn't team up with John McBride and do like a Cannibal Campout meets Splatter Farm style film together. But I guess I'm glad that they waited, because this is pretty much exactly the sequel I would have wanted for that first Splatter Farm film. So I don't know. I guess we got your standard cast of characters. The basic plot is that this girl has inherited, the farm. She's distantly related to Jeremy and the aunt or whatever from the first movie, and by extension, the boys as well. So she's going out there to check out the farm, see what's up with it, as you do when you inherit a big piece of property like that. She's taken, of course, her, ragtag group of standard horror movie friends along with her. We've got, the sort of airhead bimbo girl with her boyfriend that's the jock. And then you got like the party animal chick and their retro obsessed friend Gopher, which is definitely a fun character. One of the coolest deaths in the movie as well. I don't know. What do you guys think of our cast of characters here in the basic setup for the film? Ooh, I see a copy of The Talisman back there. Good book.
Kirkendall's portrayal of Jeremy is spot on. I have to say that I didn't even realize it was a different actor for a bit until I looked it up again. I mean, he did an amazing job with that part.
Yeah, Jeff is one of those guys that simultaneously looks like a middle-aged man and a 12-year-old kid. And I think that he's got that boyish feature to his face, which really lent it to, portraying Jeremy as a grown man, I think. And they do sort of look similar. I don't know if it looks like it would be an older version of Jeremy, but they look like they could be like cousin brothers or something like that, I don't know. What did you think of Kirkendall in this, Cody? You've messed with that guy before. He seems like a really rad dude, and so far I'm loving everything that I'm seeing of him. So
yeah, I mean, I thought he did great. He's always the highlight for me in Polonia movies. I like more of the modern stuff of his than I dislike. I know that some of it can kind of just be the same old stuff over and over again, but I mean, usually when he throws Kirkendall in there, even if it's a shark movie, like he's the crazy German scientist or just whatever, like he always, for me, it seemed like Kirkendall always brings it.
Yeah, dude, he's down to play multiple roles in movies and just go full ham with it and have fun. And I think he probably is passionate about every one of these things, even if it maybe isn't top tier Polonia stuff, Great addition to the film. And, he co-wrote and directed it with Mark Polonia as well, which is cool. I don't know if he's done a ton of that. I'm still becoming familiar with the dude, but that's a hell of an outing. He's certainly earned it, I think, by being in all that Polonia stuff as well. He's a loyal comrade in the schlockery, and this is a good example of how that pays off. What do you guys think of the other? I don't want to call them kids because they're clearly not kids, but the other people in the movie.
They do their part. I mean, it's reasonably fun. I enjoy them acting out their characters, and and you can really screw up being one of the teenage victims. And I do think that they did a fairly decent job of keeping it together. Acting is pretty fair to positive, which is good. And I think in general, it's just it's fun watching them crash and burn, especially some of the effects, like with that. What was it? The flare.
Oh yeah, their tribute to Friday the 13th Part 5. That was a good one. Liked that a lot. Yeah, they're fine. I mean, it's they don't overcomplicate it by trying to make these kids have too much depth to them. I mean, they're just kind of the friends of this girl that inherited the farm, and they happen to be there with her to like have a good time while they check out this property that she inherited. I don't know in real life if I would ever invite a group of people out with me to check out a farm I inherited the first time that I'm visiting it. I don't think most people would. I think you'd go with like one person and just check the property out, and then you might arrange for there to be a party. But as a trope in horror films, I guess I can understand how going out with a group of your friends to check out a property that you've inherited is a good setup to get them all killed. And it works, you know? I mean, you don't need too much with something like this. I did notice with this, some of the side characters, they leaned a little bit more, at least one in particular, the Grease Monkey guy. They leaned harder into, it felt like deliverance worship a little bit with that guy. Like he was supposed to be kind of the nod to that, which makes some sense. The first Splatter Farm movie is very much like Psycho meets Last House on the Left meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So throwing in some deliverance type, vibes in this one with the Grease Monkey guy was pretty cool. And he's got a bit of that rapey thing going on. It's like a little deliverance, I spit on your grave kind of a thing going with that dude. And then, those cops are fucking hilarious. I'm pretty sure the sheriff's deputy guy was in a Full Moon movie once too, unless I'm totally imagining that. But man, did that sheriff have some good hair. And I liked the paper hat band that was holding the badge to his cowboy hat. That was the best.
He's in a lot of Polonia stuff, and usually he plays a character named Duke, which is
that his real hair? Do you know?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Normally plays a character named Duke, and it's like a 80s action star reject. But he's good at what he does. Like he's either a cop or he plays Duke. He plays Duke a lot, and I'm
loving it.
That's full. That's, as far as I know, that's full on his hair because he has it in every movie.
I mean, it might not be his hair. It could be plugs or something. I don't want to speculate. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice man. I don't want to speculate on the origins of his follicles, but it's good hair. I'm telling you, man. If you end up seeing this, I like it. It's easily one of the highlights of the movie for me was when he took that hat off, and I was like, "Oh shit, that might not be a wig." Loved it. And he's kind of there to serve as the the exposition guy or whatever. He fills you in on the history of it, which leads to probably one of the best recreations in horror history. We definitely got some wigs going on in that one. And I love how it just keeps going when you get to that recap part where they're recreating the old footage. Like you think it's just going to be like a 30-second thing, but it ends up being like 5 minutes or something like that of them basically recreating the highlights of Splatter Farm up to and including the headshot, which was just great. I loved every minute of it, and the way they fucking recreated the Niagara Falls shirt that John was wearing in the original one, or whichever one of the twins it was. I couldn't tell the difference between them back in those days, but brilliant. They could have easily phoned it in and just did like stock footage, right? Because it even would have lent to the vintage like flashback vibe of the scene better, but they chose to make it fun instead. I feel like that's one of those things that maybe John and Jeff put in the movie. Mark and Jeff put in the movie because it's something that John would have found funny, like the plastic beer bottles going clink. I thought that was pretty brilliant as well. I'm a big fan of dumb shit like that, so if you could put that in your movie, instant like extra star for me for that shit. I think that's about it with characters. I mean, we just got the group of kids. Oh no, we got the dude that like collects all sort of weapons or whatever, and his wife, and they're like local folks or whatever. And then she ends up getting involved with the kids at some point, coming to welcome them to the neighborhood or whatever. She's of the streets, I'm pretty sure, but it's they're sort of side characters that are thrown into the movie to I guess just add characters to the movie. I mean, they don't serve any major purpose from what I remember. She does have a pretty good shower scene though, which I feel like both the Polonia movies I've seen her in, she had a shower scene, and I'm certainly not complaining about it. So the dude was very creepy. I could see how he would be the type of guy that would play like a rich dude in movies like this that maybe murders people for fun or something. He had good vibes like that I could see being put to good use by Polonia. I don't know if he's shown up in any other films, but I liked what he was putting out there. And I think that's it character-wise, yeah?
Yeah.
That's pretty much the cast. 2/3 of it is people that you've definitely seen in Polonia movies if you've watched even a couple of the modern Polonia flicks. And the other people seem fine, So they pretty much end up heading out to the farm. And to be quite honest, not a ton happens at first. But the movie's not super long either. I think it's like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. So, good. You look like you had something to say, Brandon.
I mean, I'm just saying that they don't really. And I've seen movies that the pacing is difficult, like Sharkula. I like the concept and I like the acting, but the pacing can be very slow at times. Here, I feel like they really utilize the characters, they utilize the time. I really didn't feel like there was a lot of wasted time in this movie. I mean, there was a little bit, but most of it, I feel like they actually treated pretty well. I was surprised at how efficient this was. I mean, like I say, most of the characters had a purpose, and most of the scenes had a purpose.
Yeah, they end up just pretty much going out there, and then after a bit, they all get bumped off, and then we get the finale, and the fucking movie's over. I mean, it easily could have been. How do I put this? It could have just been a huge nostalgic fucking wank fest if they got overindulgent with it, right? Like, it could have been like 2 hours long, full of references to every fucking Polonia movie that's ever been made, and they could have recapped the entirety of Splatter Farm with stock footage and then still had like an hour and 45 minutes of movie on top of that. There's certainly movies that have been guilty of that stuff in like major franchises where there shouldn't be any excuse for that shit. And they resisted the temptation pretty successfully with this. Dare I say, you could show this to someone who'd never seen Splatter Farm and they would still enjoy it. It's just a fun little like chunky splatter slasher flick, that happens to have I guess a prequel movie, if you want to look at it that way, that came out back in the 80s. It's not watching Splatter Farm is not a prerequisite to enjoying this movie. It's just,
I get a lot of people just going off of Wild Eye movies thinking that it was just a standalone movie.
Yeah.
Fully, yeah, I could see that as well. If I was unaware of Splatter Farm, the fact that they didn't use stock footage would have made me think that this was just
That being said, I do think that watching the original film really enhances this one.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree.
I mean if I wouldn't have seen the first one, I wouldn't have been so excited about my favorite part in the second one, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I could see going into this thinking even the Return title is kind of like, remember Return to Horror High, how it was supposed to be like a spoof of sequels and horror movies in general and stuff like that. So even the title wouldn't necessarily denote this as a sequel if you had no knowledge of the prior film. But it's exactly what it is. It's a lean, mean schlocking machine right here. It just gets in there, does the job that it's trying to do, gets it over with in a timely fashion. If you're nostalgic for the first movie, you're going to get your fill where that stuff's concerned. If you enjoy the Polonia's accents, they certainly take a bit of a piss on that with the recreation scenes. Where are those fucking guys from, dude? I've always wondered what's going on with their accents. And are they from like upstate New York or something like that? Like they've got that strange.
They're from New York, yeah.
I don't know how you describe that Polonia accent. I've heard other people that have it too, but it's like, I guess you know who else kind of has it is Merle, fucking Gigi Allen's brother from the Murder Junkies. So I wonder if they're from the same area. But it's like a really slow kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but like lackadaisical accent that they have. It's like northern southern accent almost, if that makes any sense. Like it's got that, they're not in any hurry to say whatever they're saying,
So, like a hodgepodge of a couple different accents put together.
Yeah, a lot of those dudes from Maine kind of seem to have that going too. Not the same accent, but the same way it's delivered, where they're not in any real hurry to say anything. I think the further north and the colder things go, you get a lot of that. Because there's a lot of Canadian dudes. A couple of my cousins that I grew up around, especially, had that like slow hoser accent where they're. Yeah. I'm not going to venture an impression of it right now because one of them might listen to this at some point. You know what's going on, Ronnie. Yeah, it's a good accent though. I like it. I like that they kind of poke fun at themselves in it with the recreation of it. You can tell those guys watched Splatter Farm a bunch to get the voices down because it is perfection.
It makes me wonder. I forgot to look. I don't remember how many years ago Return was made. But I almost wonder if one of the two brothers were his son.
It wasn't that long ago. A matter of fact, because I know his son.
2019, wasn't it? It's in the title. I forgot what I put.
I mean,
it probably wasn't then.
I mean, Polonia's son was very heavily involved in the work on it. One thing that's fun to watch if you really love the film is Movie Buff One has a extremely long behind the scenes video about this, which you could see a lot of the aspects, but there's a lot of cool interviews with Mark Polonia, with his son, with several of the actors, Kirkendall, and some of the scenes that are there. So it's kind of fun to look at the behind the scenes.
Yeah, he did one for Camp Blood 7 too, didn't he?
Yeah, matter of fact, the Splatter Farm set is the same set as the Camp Blood 7 set.
And I believe a couple of the Apes movies. That barn looked real familiar.
So, I wouldn't be surprised.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, it was pretty broke, but I mean, it worked. Yeah. I don't think it was an operating barn anymore, you know? I don't know, man. I would definitely. Now, when you say extremely long, is that by like schlock standards, or how long are we talking here?
I think it's about as long as the movie is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad. I like, I like it when I like a supplemental is. I didn't even like longer, man. There's been a couple of fucking old Splatter movies I bought where there's like a 3-hour documentary on it, and I'm always stoked on that shit. So I might check that out at some point. So basically, you know, the bulk of what there is to really talk about here is just vibes and kills, I guess. I mean, there's not much plot wise. We've already covered it. They go to the farm. You know, Jeremy's still there and he kills some folks. And that's the movie. What is our first kill is where he slams that guy in the hatchback of that little, like, soccer mom SUV thing those one people are driving, right?
Yeah.
Pretty underwhelming kill, but it you know, serves the purpose of, I guess, like cluing that guy into that this lady drove this car over here that has a trunk full of weapons, which is pretty cool. And that's pretty much what goes on with that one. What was the next kill in line there? I forget the order of these a little bit. I know the three that I liked the most, but I'm not certain of the order of them anymore at this point.
Wasn't the next one guys went out to the barn to check it out and got killed? Like went out there by himself or something? Or was it? I don't know. See how.
I feel like the next one might be the grease monkey and that bimbo girl, because she gets mad at her boyfriend or whatever because he's nice to that local lady that shows up and takes a shower. So they go out there and she's like canoodling with the grease monkey.
Doesn't the boyfriend die before them? I can't remember.
Yeah, he gets slammed in the hatchback.
Okay, so he's the one who gets. Okay, it's been a little while since I watched it.
The grease monkey was pretty like he's like her dad's age and was like still concerned with the guy being a jock. They called him Jocko.
Jocko. I like how he just tries to make her blow him, and she's like, "If you think I'm gonna blow you that quickly," you know, like she's not ruling it out. She's just saying, like, "Come on, man, pump the brakes a little bit."
Just after he had made sure that they can't drive anywhere because of sabotaging their car.
Yeah, he did.
Well, they were pretty fucking rude to that guy. I mean, he was a bit forward in the gas station, but there was like immediately that vibe like they needed to fight or something because that dude was all jockey or whatever. So I kind of maybe need to side with the redneck in this situation where it's like, fuck that dude. Yeah, I was hitting on his girl, but he wasn't doing anything particularly bad. You know, he was.
Which
just
I know it's not our favorite, but the jock guy, I think I remember him more just because I've watched that When Bad Movies Attack video so many times. But like he's the guy that's outside the boat with the kayaks in First Slaughter, and his woman's inside the boat.
Oh, and she's saying, yeah, she keeps, doesn't he keep saying her name, or she keeps saying his name like a million times.
They can somehow have a whole conversation, and there's like no idea like how far apart they are. Clearly inside the houseboat, and he's out there.
She's like deep in a houseboat doing her makeup or something, and he's kayaking around outside of it, and they're having just an effortless conversation.
Like a normal, nobody's yelling. Like they're just normal talking. And he's
man, that's one of the worst moments in a Polonia movie, I think. And then when the guy gets killed or whatever, she just says his name like 40 times. Like it goes on. It was funny up until like the 25th time she said it, and then it's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Lines were easy to remember though.
It's true. And it's ironic that the movie is, well, I guess it's not easy to forget. It sucks so fucking bad we're still talking about it.
Well,
I hate First Slaughter.
Polonia had more chances at Camp Blood. I mean, at least he could. I liked Children of Camp Blood. I liked Part 7. Ghost of Camp Blood.
It seems like every other installment that he did was good. It's just First Slaughter was, you know.
Yeah, not
it is what it is. I like the idea of him strapping a GoPro to the mask, but other than that,
I like Kirkendall being like the crazy guy, where he's trying to, you're all doomed, and then he ends up getting killed in it because he's in First Slaughter also.
Yeah, that is a good moment as well, and I guess the twist is kind of neat. It's not without its redeeming qualities, but it's pretty ass as far as Camp Blood movies go. This, however, is not ass. And thankfully, I mean, I don't know. I like the GoPro aspect or whatever of First Slaughter, but that's a one and done gimmick right there. I'm glad that they haven't brought that back as far as I know. But
yeah, it was a clever idea for sure.
Yeah. I feel like even before I'd seen that, I had conversations with people speculating of how cool it would be if like Jason ended up getting a mask, because he like changes he has to get like a new mask in some movies, know, and what if he had like grabbed like a GoPro rigged mask that someone was using as part of like a prank or something. So it's kind of an obvious idea, and it's weird that it hasn't been done more often, I guess, in slasher movies. Is there like a Scream movie where they're doing that? Or am I thinking of, there's like this movie called Trick, maybe, where there's like a GoPro mask thing going on.
I feel like Trick was one where they did that. Yeah.
It sounds right.
Jigsaw kind of like that with the robot.
Which one?
Jigsaw, not the Saw movie, but Jigsaw.
Oh, I stopped watching those after like Saw 5.
No, I mean it wasn't the Saw movies. It was called Jigsaw, and it was about like a robot. And didn't he have like some kind of a camera on him? It was I want to say it's a full moon movie, but it wasn't a full moon movie. Like came out in the early 2000s.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
I want to say he had a camera, or like one of his eyes was a camera or something, and
the eye being a camera reminds me for some reason of that movie Full Moon did called Horror Vision, where it was basically Fear.com, but Full Moon doing it with Danny Draven. And a bunch of weird cybergoth vibes to it that just didn't work. It dates the movie so fucking hard when you see like cybergoth stuff in it. Everything that I see of that just reminds me of that scene in Batman and Robin where they fight those rave guys, like it's impossible to take seriously outside of 2002. Yeah, I don't know. It's certainly not a gimmick that's unique to Polonia or Camp Blood, but thankfully there's not a lot of gimmick. There's no gimmick in this movie. It's just your classic, True Blue sequel, I guess, where it's just going and doing sort of the same thing. that the first one did. The body count is very much upgraded in Return to Splatter Farm. I think the body count in the first film, other than bodies that already existed at the house or the farm when the Polonias arrive, is 2. You know, it was like basically a backyard SOB movie that they did.
It was also a bigger cast, so I mean, it's
you
almost have to have a bigger body count unless you're having just all these people survive it.
Yeah, it easily doubles the body count of the first one, like you said, just because of the size of the cast there. So, you know, we get the double decapitation. We get the dude getting squished in the car door. We get the road flare to the mouth, which Brandon alluded to earlier. Great tribute to Friday the 13th, part 5. That's one of the best scenes in that movie is the road flare to the mouth. I think that's one of those Jason kills that kind of had, you know, from my memory, even the people that hated Friday the 13th part 5 had to admit that the road flare to the mouth is dope. You know, it's a great kill. And this one even upgrades that because he shoots a flare into her fucking mouth. And then we get to kind of watch her head slowly melt and get gross. And it's pretty satisfying. I also like it that he did it kind of to the mouthiest character in a way, outside of the airhead girl that is part of the double decapitation, which is just hilarious. I mean, he hits him with the sickle and the heads are just laying on the blade. It doesn't make any sense, but it's funny. And it's right after the whole getting head line goes down where she's talking about, I'm not going to blow you, you know, that quick. So it's like a kind of a double entendre thing or whatever they call it, where, you know, yeah, the only person gets head in that scenario is Jeremy. And it's probably not the first time.
Which she's in Bride of the Werewolf. That was another Polonian movie they did with Sterling. And she was also in Axe Grinder 3.
That feels right.
When they had Valkyr, like, taking pictures of her.
Yeah.
Fire teeth in. And her teeth kept falling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff.
She definitely looked familiar, and she's, you know, of the thicker variety, which makes perfect sense. She would be in a movie from the Sherlock camp, you know. God bless you, Joe. Both the Joes.
Was it this one that they had the lightning bolt kill the guy?
Yes, it was. That was the next one I was going to mention. Gopher's death is because he's all obsessed with retro, right? Which almost feels like they're taking the piss on some of us that are or were those dudes to a certain extent for a bit. I don't know that I've ever necessarily been the retro guy. I like a lot of retro stuff, but I definitely know guys that are that dude, you know, where it's like still rolling around with a Walkman and things like that, you know, and it's more power to them, but it did feel like they were sort of taking the piss with that a little bit too. And I love how he just stabs him with the antenna of that boom box. And then he's walking around kind of like zombified because he got an impromptu lobotomy from the fucking radio antenna. And then it gets struck by a lightning storm and just obliterates him. Such a fun kill. I mean, whoever thought of that was having a real good day when it came to like having good ideas for shit like this, you know. I've never seen anything quite like it. What else? What else are we missing here?
I mean, there was the campers that were killed.
Oh, that's right.
That was a flashback. That was when, because I got to watch that scene over and over again because that was one of the ones that was highlighted in that behind the scenes thing I was talking about.
Well, of course it was.
Well, yeah, it would make sense. But oddly enough, it wasn't his scene that was over and over again. It was the guy that was with him's scene that was shot over and over again, where he was walking down the path and he gets ambushed on the path because they had to film that over and over again because they kept like messing up the take. I thought that was interesting that they did that over and over to get that shot of him walking down the path basically and dropping the stuff and all that stuff.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of like the idea of that because I'm sure a lot of people won't see that video But there's a lot of people that think these kind of movies they're all one takes and just it's good enough. We'll deal with it.
Yeah.
So
Depends on the director.
that's true.
Yeah, dude, Polonia might have been that director on a different film on a different day, but this was a little more important. Yeah, that's cool. If I remember right, that same tent is the tent that's in Camp Murder, isn't it?
I think so.
I mean, they did them pretty close together because the lady that was the wife in this one, she was the reporter that was trying to figure out all that stuff about oh my god, what was the killer's name in Camp Murder?
I forget, but I do vaguely remember us having the conversation about how the reason that there's already stains on the tent in Camp Murder is because it was the tent from Return to Splatter Farm. So that tent has more IMDb credits than some people, pretty cool. I like that that's thrown in there. It was neat seeing Kyle in the movie or whatever. Super necessary scene, I don't know, but it works. I mean, there's not a lot of unnecessary stuff in here. I think that one was thrown in there just to give it an extra little kick to the body count, obviously, and it serves the purpose nicely. I thought that Jeff's portrayal, as we've already mentioned, of Jeremy was pretty great. One of my favorite scenes is where he's like wearing that mask in that girl's dream, and he's like, "Welcome to the farm. We can be friends." I really like that. That's like a sample I might rip for an eventual Schlockaholics like intro thing, because I just like the way that it sounds. It's almost begging to be ripped out and sampled in some crazy grindcore song about this movie. So we'll see what happens.
I love the song that they did for Splatter Farm.
Oh, that like opening theme song that they have with the searing fucking guitar licks and shit. And I love how they put like that VHS like scan or the old school tube monitor scan line effect over the intro just to give it that throwback. It's a subtle nostalgia. The subtle nostalgia wankery is nice in this because they don't, they're stroking you a little bit, but they're not, taking you to completion with it necessarily. They're just giving you a little taste of what the overall thing is. Really like that a lot. That's a good theme. I don't know who composed it or performed it or whatever. Oh shit, we lost Cody. Well, hopefully he returns.
Well, this review did it to completion for him.
Apparently. Yeah, man, I don't know. What are we missing? Any other kills?
I can't think of any major kills that weren't in that. I mean, I think that some of the stuff, I really do feel like there was a lot of care taken into some of the kills that were done. I know they spent a lot of work on that road flare kill, especially. I mean, they made that entire wax head. They did all this stuff just to make sure that it looked good, and
it did.
I have always thought that when Polonia really puts his mind to what needs to be done, the effects can be really spot on. I mean, it varies per movie, but when he really cares about the effects, oh my gosh, they can look amazing.
Well, because he's a proper horror fan, man. I mean, both the Polonias were. They ate, slept, and breathed the shit, One of the dudes literally right until the end, so they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
The shitty Polonia movies are intentionally shitty because they can be, and then certain times when the dude gives a shit, there's that Polonia charm to it that really shines through. And there's that charm in the shitty ones too.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you get it a little bit better in something like this, or even something like the Apes trilogy, than you are in probably some of those fucking shark movies,
Out of what I've seen in the Polonia films, this one would definitely be in my top 5.
Easy.
Yeah, and I mean, if I was to recommend Polonia to somebody, I probably wouldn't start with Didn't he do Camp Blood 3?
Yeah, well,
Okay, so I probably
3.
wouldn't have started with that one. I mean, like I probably would start with something like Splatter Farm, obviously, but Return to Splatter
Or even
Farm.
this one. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, as we mentioned,
Yeah.
it kind of does have that thing going where you could watch this without watching Splatter Farm, right?
Even
And
Camp
so,
Blood 7 was really good. I felt like.
well, like the first Splatter Farm, as we discussed, was a very formative piece of schlock for me growing up, and I like to think, maybe not on the same level, because this clearly wasn't two kids just making it with like a stolen camcorder, basically. But I like to think that this still might have turned me on to low budget movies if I saw this as a young man as my exposure to the Polonias. It still would have been like, oh, this is sick. It's clearly like a gritty DIY labor of love that they're doing here. It's not a Hollywood movie, obviously, but it's still got that charm of like proper fandom and passion. And, I think this would have still turned me on to low budget movies, much like Splatter Farm did, if I saw this at the same age later. You know what I mean? Like if I was a younger person. What else is there to mention here? The van in the movie is exactly my van. That's a fun fact. I think I mentioned that to you guys in the chat, like, a couple of weeks back, but that is exactly my van. Same exact make, same exact model, might even be the same year,
That's funny.
Yep, it's that Dodge Caravan, man. That's what I've been doing all this river rat shit in lately, and it works. I'd rather have a little pickup truck. I don't know that I like smelling live bait in my van, but it's the sacrifices we make to get on those bass, baby. So I'm trying to get a catfish tonight. I don't know. I think that this is a pretty fucking fantastic effort by Polonia and Kirkendall. I think that it is very much worthy of the legacy of the original Splatter Farm. I would love to have these on like a 2-tape box set somehow of VHS tapes. I think that would be pretty fucking cool.
Actually, I know it wasn't that long ago because Return to Splatter Farm was big up on the First Versus Awards. Matter of fact,
well, it says 2020 on IMDb, but I'm thinking it was 2019. I feel like.
Well, I mean, it's more about when it debuted, I guess. So that's the.
I know you guys were talking about it several years back for sure, because I remember even prior to Versus Awards shit, you mentioning it to me for obvious reasons, and I had regrettably not seen the film. Well, depending on when you were asking me about it, when Kyle was asking you, it might not even have been out yet, but it took me till this year to finally see it. Probably because I was hesitant to watch it, If it'd been like Feeders 3, I haven't watched it. Actually, that's not a good example because I haven't watched it. I'm about to. Feeders 3 is something I would have watched right away, but no, obviously not. I don't know that certain movies like this are something I'd be rushing out to see a sequel to. Something like a big franchise, obviously that you're going to want to see the sequel sooner rather than later because more people are going to be watching it and you'll have more opportunity for conversation about it. Feeders 3 isn't one that I was rushing out to see, and from what I heard, it's not as good as the first two, but is that surprising necessarily? I don't think so. It's probably to be expected. This certainly isn't any Feeders 3. This is very much, I think, I don't know, I'd probably say this is maybe even superior to the first Splatter Farm, obviously in technical aspects, but just in pacing and if this was all they ever did was this and the first Splatter Farm, I think I would still be a huge fan of the Polonias. Because this is a solid, legacy sequel or whatever you want to call it. So if, the Polonias had only ever done Splatter Farm, and I still would have wanted them to do the Feeders movies too. So Splatter Farm and Feeders or whatever, and then he came back and did this sequel however many decades later as a tribute to his brother after he died. I would still be fucking hyped on it.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like if the guy, I mean, video violence, good example. If video violence was the only thing that he ever did, like the first movie, he would still be a major pioneer in the genre.
Yeah, still be a legend, you know.
Yeah.
That's another one too. I've often mused like how it would be neat to make a sequel to the video violence movies, or to see like a major studio buy it and remake it or something. And the more and more I think about that, I have to disagree with myself there. You know, I think that most of that stuff should be left alone unless it's the dudes revisiting it. And I think that this is a great example of that. Like if this was some other assholes that did Return to Splatter Farm, because they saw that there was potential in the first one and did it with like a way huger budget or something like that, it would have sucked all the charm out of the source material. You know, you'd be left with just essentially like a rip-off Texas Chainsaw movie that no one would give a shit about, you know. So I think that all the shit I talked about video violence being picked up or being a great idea for a major studio is still true, but I don't want that to happen, because I would much rather see, like, what is it, Gary Cohen or whatever, do like a Video Violence 3 than I would want to see like a remake of Video Violence. You know?
Well, with the 80s and the 90s being a nostalgia fest these days, I could see them doing a remake of Video Violence set in the 80s and 90s. And probably falling hard, but you never know.
I'd rather see it as like an HBO series, I think. That could be cool.
Hey, make their actual show from the second movie into an actual series.
That would be cool.
Yes, I would watch the fuck out of that. I don't know. Do we ever need a Splatter Farm 3? Nah. Will we probably get one? I wouldn't be surprised. What do you guys think? I mean, is it necessary? Is it something you'd want? I think it's cool. I like that it's like a duology or whatever they call it. You know, you can run these as a double feature, and then they've seen it. They've seen the Splatter Farm shit. So you could like show this to a friend, the first one and this one back to back, and they're done. They know.
There's nothing wrong with the trilogy.
I'll take it, but I feel like they would just be doing the third one just to do it, I guess, which is why they do any third movie in a series that isn't predestined to be a trilogy from the start. But
I would worry about it hitting the same, like the Camp Blood effect.
Yes.
Where it then becomes, because this one you could tell was a labor of love. I'd hate to have that taken out of it. And if you keep making those movies, it just becomes there. Now, do I think that it's a series that could be a long-running franchise? Oh, yeah. I mean, it could. I mean, Jeremy could keep coming back over and over again. You could have Splatter Farm 55 if you wanted. But shoot, you could have a Sterling Splatter Farm box set. But
it's true.
But I feel like it would not... I just don't feel like it would. I feel like it would cheapen it. I feel like this was a good like return, and I feel it's best to leave it be, just to make sure that it's still good.
Right, I would agree. And also, it would just be harder to do continuous sequels to this unless Jeff is down to just keep playing that Jeremy character, which I'm sure he would be. But the fact that it's not a masked character, I guess it could be, you know, it showed him in that mask in the dream sequence and whatnot. So it could end up being like a masked character if it had to be. But yeah, it being like a person with a face, you know, you run into that Robert Englund thing where it's like, can you really continue it without him? Apparently not, you know. So
well, you could. I mean, it would just be sort of like a curse of thing, you know, after you get to a certain point and maybe Kirkendall's done with
you talking about doing like that Halloween fucking ends kind of a thing.
And then, you know, like he comes in there, he gets killed by a guy, and and then the guy just feels like he's possessed to start. He just goes crazy, and his craziness is what kills Kirkendall's character, and then he becomes the next Jeremy. Like he wears like maybe like cuts off Jeremy's face and wears it like Leatherface, and just starts going at it like that.
I was almost kind of hoping that was going to be the case with the chick in this one, where she would pull like a stretch from Texas Chainsaw 2, and at the end just be like, you know, that would have been pretty cool. It's going all murderous. I don't know. You guys got a favorite moment in the movie? I guess we'll start with you, Cody.
My favorite part of this movie is a throwback to the original, and that's Jeremy dancing in the field.
Yeah, that was pretty great. Pretty great. That'd be a highlight for me as far as moments too. Favorite kill, I gotta go with the road flare one, just for the overall insanity and like grisliness of it. Secondary to that, I think, would be the double decapitation, just because it's stupid. And we all know how much of a fan I am of that kind of shit.
I like that scene with like where you almost like you have the dead bodies piled up, and then it looks like they're coming back to life. But kill wise, I also like the lightning bolt kill.
Yeah, that's got to be a highlight too. It's just so original, you know. Dude's walking around all lobotomized with a fucking antenna sticking out of his skull. And you just know what's going to happen as soon as you see that first lightning bolt. And it pays off pretty gloriously. Poor fucking Gopher. That guy was neat. He didn't harm anybody. He just decided to have his own little porch party with his boombox, and he paid the price. Rest in peace. Seemed like a real fun dude too. He looked like he was having fun the entire time. I think I'm also a really big fan of like that. What do they call that? The cold open, where it's, you know, sort of like that intro kill sequence that they do in slasher movies, and then they run the credits, and then the actual movie starts. I really like that whole sequence. It's got that girl, I always forget her name, but she's in like the Apes movies and a ton of kick-ass stuff. And I just really like the scene where they're kind of just wandering around, and then that dude ends up locked in that room with the bodies and stuff. It's just a really, and the way that they shoot Jeff as Jeremy, you know, with just the silhouette, it reminds me of the poster of that movie Madman from back in the 80s. Old Madman Mars. That it's just great stuff, you know. That opening cold open thing before the credits might be the singular like best 5 minutes ever shot in the Polonia filmography. I think it almost feels like a big budget horror movie at points, and that's not the only time this movie achieves that. Let me reiterate, the movie looks slick as fuck. It's shot really well. It was very much a labor of love on all levels, not just the fact that people are performing above average. The movie looks and sounds really goddamn good.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which is not something you can usually say about Polonia movies. There's some great cinematography in this, some great lighting. I don't know how much of that was done in the moment or in post. We live in modern times where they can do that shit on the fly digitally. Who cares? It looks good, you know, and it's worth pointing out. And that opening sequence, I think, is like a shining example of that. They managed to make that like little, it feels like a cabin almost the way they shoot it at the beginning. Turns out it's not. It's like the farmhouse or whatever. And they're sneaking in because it's, you know, Splatter Farm, like, ooh, spooky. And then they get killed. But yeah, I love it. So honorable mention to that sequence as well. You guys got a favorite character in the movie other than obviously Jeff as Jeremy?
I kind of like the retro dude guy. I don't know. He was kind of fun to walk around. I kind of felt for him.
Yeah, he's kind of like my obvious choice as well for favorite character because he's just enjoyable.
He died in a very interesting way. So hey, also hey.
Yeah, I also really like the sheriff for obvious reasons. You know, the hair. It's the hair that does it for me. No, that guy seemed like he was like indulging these B movie dorks and doing his best as well. What's that, Cody?
I'm gonna go with the Grease Monkey because it just seems so odd that a guy that was probably 20 to 30 years older than the rest of them is concerned with what a bunch of 18 or 19-year-old kids are doing.
Yeah. To be fair, though, he's like one of those backwoods hillbilly grease monkeys. I mean, what else is he gonna do?
Well, I could see him as someone that was made fun of in high school by people like that. So that was him trying to.
Yeah, trying to get his revenge for those days of being bullied by all the jockos.
Just trying to get ahead and end up losing his.
Yep, that's how it went down. Good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think that about does it. I mean, you know, we can wrap this up now with any plugs that you guys got going on for anything else that you might have. I just want to thank everybody involved in Return to Splatter Farm. I know, you know, at least a couple of them are frequenters of our social media and friends with us on Facebook and sometimes watch the show. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes, we have all now seen it, Kyle. We liked it immensely. We're looking forward to the next one. Well, not the next Splatter Farm movie. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but you know what I mean. So, yeah. I don't know. You got anything going on there, Brandon? I'm actually going to grab a beverage real quick. I'll be right back.
Oddly enough, last week was pretty busy on my channel. I had an anime discussion about To Love Ru. I had a pickup video that I did. And then I got... I actually went ahead and I dropped the because the Blu-ray is coming out this coming month. So I went ahead and I dropped my psychoanalysis for Cool Summer, which, by the way, that if you want to try and get a free copy, SRS is going to be running a giveaway this month where you can try and snag a free copy of the Blu-ray of the Anhedenia Films animation collection, which was a labor of love on my part. Putting it together, we hired an actual artist friend of mine to do the cover, and a lot of work into that one. It's very limited. I think this is going to be in between sales-wise, between the selling out immediately of Shekel Demon Project and the still available Anhedenia, Collection Volume 1, because I think these films are actually pretty solid ones. And whereas the other collection I did, they were kind of like the reject films. I mean, two of the films on that one there's a short film about him getting a colonoscopy and a longer film about him getting a COVID test. So, you know, but this
it's
one,
pretty sad that one takes longer than the other. You know,
how
much care are they taking with that colonoscopy if they're finishing it before the COVID test? You know?
But yeah, that was a huge thing for me. That's getting released.
Literally.
I can't say a lot much more going on the channel because we're busy trying to do work on our stuff. We've got our gaming series we've got 2 episodes already filmed and edited, but I want to get enough to where I feel like it's worthwhile to start airing them because they take so long to film. The third one that we're doing is because we've done Mazes and Monsters, Skullduggery, and now we're actually moving into the early 2000s with a film called Night Chills. But it's still along that same vibe of gaming is evil. It causes murder and destruction. But we're going to get into... But this one's a lot more... this one's a lot more fun because it's about a guy who takes the game too seriously, offs himself, but then comes back as his character as a ghost knight and starts slaughtering all of his gaming group who are making fun of him. And I don't know, that one is much more fun to me. The the skullduggery was a weird drug-induced thing with Easter Bunny massacres and stuff. So I don't know.
That sounds fun, though. The one you just described sounds like something even Cody might like without, a bunch of prior gaming knowledge.
Well, I know that night one you were just talking about. That's a brain damage movie, so
It is.
I'm already in for that.
And I watched that one actually recently on a double feature with Hollywood Vampire.
Nice.
So I look forward to that. Me and Jake are doing that discussion tomorrow, and then comes the long process of editing it. But my channel is kind of running right now. It's I'm filming stuff for it, and I'm sporadically uploading at the moment.
Right on, man. It's good to see you guys have a couple irons in the fire, though. Nothing wrong with taking some time off to do a more produced series of videos, man. I'm looking forward to them. I have been for a bit. I mean, I'm obviously a fan of the tabletop gaming.
That one, and then I think when we start airing that series is when we're going to start filming our other series on Amityville, which is going to be try and watch as many Amityville films as we can. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to try and do a short film episode, which will include things like Amityville cat farts. I think it was cute cat farts. For instance, is a good one. So
man. We've come to this.
I mean, there's a lot of these Amityville films that are digital only, which sucks.
Makes sense.
But I might be archiving a few of those just to make sure
I absolutely will not be watching all of those, but we're certainly down to do some crossovers with you and Jake when the opportunities arise. It seems like a good excuse to do that. You can come give us your Amityville recaps over here or something, and we can do, like you said, like some kind of short film thing, or I don't know, whatever we end up doing over here would be a good excuse to tag Jake in. Especially if you're going to subject him to that crap, he's going to want to put it to use, I think. So it would be funny in the future if one ever comes up on the show to have Jake come for it, just to be like, yeah, this piece of shit again.
Okay. Amityville Cute Farting Cat. That's the name of the title.
I think Amityville Cat Farts had a better ring to it, but who am I?
But I mean, that's the thing, is we're going to start with the proper stuff, the original movie,
and
then just see how it kind of starts up here and then slowly degrades over time.
I don't know if it's slow, bro. I think it's like boom, 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 dunk. Like that's pretty much. And then you get a couple of blips every now and again of like.
You have some fun ones, like Amityville Terror was pretty good.
Amityville Bloodbath's going to be sick.
Yeah. So
shameless
that's
plug.
The thing. And a lot of the matter of fact, a lot of those Amityville, like the cheaper Amityville ones, some of them are interesting. Amityville Webcam will be a horrible film when it comes out, but that's all right. It's intentional.
Hey man, there's nothing wrong with a horrible film. They have the right to exist, just like any other film. Anything else you got going on over there? What was your guys' last Inside Movies Galore discussion? We can point the people towards that.
Well, tomorrow we covered Don't Worry, Darling. And we did an anime discussion last week. I tried to forget Amityville Karen, actually. I mean, Nelly, I tried to forget Amityville Karen. I tried to erase that from my head that I ever watched it.
Let's put that on the screen, though, just because we can never forget Amityville Karen. It is an example of what should not be allowed. That stuff like that should be illegal.
But Jake hosted a discussion last week on Weathering with You, which is an anime, one of those love story animes. But then, of course, like I said, we've got some fun stuff. Dave and my birthday is in June, so we're splitting the month between each other.
I think you guys also did a month just recently where you did all three of the original Star Wars movies plus Demolition Man randomly. Wish I could have been on those. Should have been on those. But things happen. Definitely
was
worth
only
checking
on
out their
for,
discussions for those as well.
I was only on for Empire, so for those three. Well, I guess I
made the first
right?
one. I guess I was there for A New Hope, if I remember right. But
so, but that's how it is. People come and go as they can, and like I said, Dave's first pick is "Don't Worry, Darling," and they're doing "Last Night in Soho" for his, and then for me, I'm doing well, gosh, what was it? "Wet Hot American Summer," because then I can use that as a double because I'm also using it for that gaming show because it has D&D geeks saving the world.
I love how it starts out kind of artsy, and then Brandon just throws in lowbrow shit. I love it.
Then of course,
I love it. We're so proud of you, man.
As a tribute to a late great actor, I'm also going to hit the park at the end of the month, which is an Andinia Films, one that Evan Jacobs says was, in his opinion, his favorite role that the guy did, and so out of respect to that, throwing that in there and see if I like it better this time around. He keeps saying I hated it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay, but uneven.
Yeah, man. Evan, just bub up. Accept the criticism. He didn't hate the movie. Okay. It'll be all right. Rest in peace to a fucking legend.
Yeah, Father Dingleberry. Well. No longer
one of the best. So much potential. I guess we just didn't deserve him. I hope he's in a better place. I have nothing going on. Cody might. Well, I've got some ideas that I want to shop here. But Cody, you got anything going on? Anything going on with movie shoots, Killable Productions, any of that stuff? You appearing on any other shows lately?
For me, not really. Blaze went down to Texas this last weekend, so he knocked out a whole bunch of his buddies. Live down there, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff coming out the pipeline with him.
Hopefully he filmed a bunch of B-roll so he can make movies set in Texas.
No kidding.
At home,
Yeah, just make everything like it happened in and around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything going on.
Yeah, me either, man. I've mostly been just fishing, which I think we did talk about on the Schlock Talk not that long ago. And that's still going on. Summer fishing season is about to be in full swing. And I'm trying to devise a way to share that with you guys. I don't want to constantly talk about it in episodes like this. And I don't want it to be like a fixture. I wouldn't mind like a 10-minute segment in Schlock Talk, but I think that there's other things that we could do with it that would be pretty great. And one of the things that I've kind of came up with lately is Schlockaholic presents the Decent Bass Pondcast, where we just hang out on air while I'm trying to catch bass, and we just talk about random shit. Maybe horror movies, maybe music, maybe whatever. It could be a cool variety show podcast that at the end of the day could encompass all types of shit, to where the fishing is just a very minor background thing that happens to be happening during the podcast, but that would be kind of weird to schedule, and I'm trying to figure out the logistics of all of it. I would hope that all you guys would be down to participate in that off and on as schedules allow. It'd be a fun show to get on. And then who knows, man, maybe I reel in a monster while we're talking about, the Goonies or something like that, or why I don't watch football except for the Super Bowl, or, whatever, any topic that could come to mind. The sex life of lemurs. Who knows? I mean, we could learn things while we're doing it.
Actually, speaking of, are we doing the the picks for next time?
Well, see, as we're coming off of a hiatus here, we don't really have those necessarily lined up, or I don't. I know that one of them for me obviously is going to be Night of the X, so that's pretty much the default one that I'm going to go with this round. If you guys have other stuff that you want to throw in here real quick, that's definitely something that we can do here at the end. We could spin for him real quick. I don't know if Cody has a choice lined up for the next round. But yeah, The fish and cast thing is something that I would like to experiment with you guys, and I think it could be a cool way to. And who knows? Maybe we get into talking about movies out there, and I get so spooked out I have to like change spots or something. It happens when I'm just out there by myself. You know, so it's like I can't do this. I gotta move. It depends on if we're doing it after dark or not. But I think it could be a cool way to do some fun stuff. And then who knows? Maybe we could incorporate you guys doing other outdoor stuff in it too, like barbecuing, or like Cody could be like barbecuing ribs, and I could be fishing for bass, and Brandon could be like at the beach or something, and we could just be chatting with you guys about whatever comes up. Not necessarily a specific movie, not necessarily even just movies, you know. Obviously we're going to be doing tons of cool stuff over here with the main Schlockaholics episodes, the Schlock Talks. We got the Scream Time things that me and Cody are going to start like backlogging for you guys to drop periodically. Tons of cool Schlock movie oriented content, but maybe sometimes you guys just want to hang out with us as people too, you know, and just not talk specifically about movies. And this could be a cool outlet for that. I don't know. So something to consider, something that might be coming to the channel in the future if I can figure it all out. Ideally, I'd love to have like a multi-camera feed where it's just one of me and then one of like a chest-mounted camera, and then, you know, everybody else. If I could split that in my screen, like down the middle, that would be sick. Don't know if that's something I can do, but I'm going to look into it. And I get pretty good internet reception at like 2 out of the 3 ponds that I normally fish. So I could be like out there on a kayak hanging out with you guys while you're barbecuing. And he's, you know, I don't know why I just picture you at the beach, Brandon.
That'd be nice.
And Jake's like fishing minnows with a net or something. It could be great. Or he's out there identifying turtles or whatever he does with this talking to plants. I'm down for all of it. So.
Ever so often I do a pickup at the beach.
There you go. You know, you can podcast those things, baby. You get them out there. I could show some pickups from the kayak. Who knows what could happen? But just
plastic
something
bag that.
For sure. Hell yeah. Dude, depending on the week, I might have to tow like a fucking small raft behind the kayak full of the pickups. I mean, I don't know if I want to be doing that. It'd be very selective. But.
Like the lumberjack man with his pancake stack he pulls behind him.
But yeah, you know, cool stuff coming up. What were you gonna? You had something you were gonna talk about there, Brandon?
I was just saying, Cody, did you have your stuff, or did you need more time to think about what you want to do next time?
I mean, if you guys want to spin, and we can just have my pick be my pick, and then I haven't.
Okay, that works.
I didn't think of one.
That's probably the simplest solution.
Yeah, I mean, mine's already up, so
I wouldn't have had one either if I didn't have already the default pick of Night of the Axe. You know. So.
And mine's been my pick for a while. I was gonna do DV2, but I decided I'm already doing this one thing, and I really need to hit those Matrosia shorts. If y'all are still up for doing volume 1 and 2 of their short films, because I think it was like 2 hours.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And so that'll probably be mine. I think I sent you all the Blu-rays of those.
Yeah.
Brandon. How do I do this? I forget. Present. Share screen. Okay, sorry. I'm not going to talk out loud like some technologically impaired boomer or something. Wheel decides having a moment. So there we go. You guys ready?
Yep.
Can you see it?
Nope.
No, we didn't add it to the stream. Is that thing in there? No, I didn't click it.
There it is.
I'm sorry to all of the audience right now. There we go. Let's find out. who's going next? I guess, yeah, we might as well get Night of the Axe out of the way.
Yeah, finish that bad boy.
We're going to go down here. We're going to remove me from the thing. We're going to apply the wheel changes. And then we're going to see who's going to go next between Brandon and Cody. Apparently the lag favored Brandon, so
I am lag
he's
tested.
next. And then Cody, obviously. So yeah, we're going to be doing Night of the Axe, whatever these guys' selections are.
Matrosia short film, I guess.
Yeah.
Those 2 collections they did, since I kind of threw those together, just not the Christmas one, because I want that set up for us to cover the Christmas one around the holidays, and some of the stuff is referenced. Some of those short films are referenced in the Christmas one, so I want to make sure I've got that covered. Very questionable content quality on this.
It'll be fun though. And then I'm sure whatever Cody throws into the mix is going to be amazing as well. Great summer lined up. We've been saying that for a while, and it's still true. You know, we had a rough patch there, mostly because of me for the last month or two. We're coming out of that now. This show's going to start picking up some steam. We're going to get some fucking really good titles logged in over the next while. Hopefully some really cool guests on here as well. There are a couple of people that have been, on the books for a while as, feature guests. We just haven't set up the time to do it with them. So we're going to have that going as well. And honestly, I would like to get some viewer appreciation shit going at some point too. So it'd be cool to maybe one day have you on here, Michael, to talk about a movie of your choice. We'll see how that goes, but just something to consider.
Maybe Amityville Karen, since you like it so much.
I'll never forgive you guys for that, but I'll do it. So, yeah, this has been, episode 19 that Schlockaholics, baby. Thank you for joining us. We thoroughly enjoyed this, at least I did, and I'm very much looking forward to the next one. Night of the Axe looks pretty good. I have held off watching the feature film version of it all this time because I was waiting for that physical copy, and then I just decided to wait until we were eventually going to discuss it. So I'll be getting a viewing in of that at some point next week. Look forward to us Monday night for the Schlock Talk podcast, where we're going to be talking about what we watched in the last week. I'm going to be logging a lot more titles where that's concerned too. I was actually watching a couple of films last night while I was night fishing for bass. So, more on that later. Cheers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next time.